Me alegro mucho de estar aquí con ustedes otra vez con FAES a Madrid para discutir nuestro índice de Libertad Económica en el aniversario de edición 20. Yo voy a hablar en inglés, pero también podemos hacer preguntas en español. So, to start, this is our 20th year, as I said. We started in 1995, and we'll, in a minute, you'll see that the world has made great progress on economic freedom in those years, although in recent years there have been some big challenges. But as Miguel was alluding to, these are important issues that deal with people's lives and people's happiness and the possibility of pursuing happiness, as we say in our Declaration of Independence. And there are definite strong correlations between countries that do well on our index and their prosperity and the reductions in poverty that they realize. You can see that this connection of correlation between good performance in our index and more prosperity has held true throughout all the 20 years of our index, that the countries in the first quartile have consistently had greater levels of prosperity, greater levels of economic growth. They are also the social indicators, the so-called social goods of environment, education, health services. Those also correlate with good performance in our index of economic freedom. This year, as with every year, we have some guest chapters written by guest authors. This year, one of the authors is a professor of political theory at Brown University named John Tomasi. And he talks in his chapter about the moral case for economic freedom, economic liberty, and that it is not just of economic necessity, it really is also a political necessity to connect people's efforts to improve their lives and to respect those efforts through economic freedom and economic liberty. And he challenges people on the other side who have contributed to an atmosphere of polarization in political dialogue today with an attitude, kind of a zero-sum approach, kind of an either-or approach. He challenges all sides to approach these problems as not either-or, but, for example, freedom and justice, social justice, capitalism and social prosperity or democratic socialism, free markets and equality. Of course, you know, inequality is a big issue right now. Certainly, President Obama made much of it in his recent speech before Congress. And we think, and we continue to believe, that these principles of economic freedom are the best solution to reducing inequality. In Spain, 49th in the world out of 178 countries ranked, so it's still a very impressive performance. 22nd in Europe. The top 10 you can see here. Hong Kong and Singapore have been number 1 and 2 since the index started. It's an important signal that Hong Kong and Singapore send to the larger economies of Asia that countries with property rights, transparency, limited government, rule of law, low taxes, places where investors, foreign investors especially, can feel confident in investing. Those countries it's important to remember that when looking at policies for the larger countries like China. These top countries and the leaders within all the countries, all the regions, there are 6 regions. Switzerland is the number 1 in Europe. But as I said, the global rate of prosperity the global rate of economic freedom has increased significantly since we started in 1995. As you can see, the crisis in 2008, it led to a dip, and we've now, though, recovered from that, over these last 5 years, the big exception, in fact, is the United States, which has had it's had a reduction in economic freedom score for the 7th year in a row in the United States due to government spending, issues with property rights, corruption, too much taxation, increased taxes. So that's something that my domestic colleagues at Heritage have made much of, as you can imagine. But I wish we didn't need to. I wish we had a better rate of economic freedom in the United States. But these changes in the world, no, in the last year, sorry, you can see Asia Pacific has had the biggest advance, and Sub-Saharan Africa also has done better than many people realize. In Europe, we'll talk about in a second. But in Europe, what we call the changing of the guard is occurring, as you can see. And so countries that have taken a more, I would say, market approach, a strong emphasis on more efficient government and trying to rein in the welfare state, have succeeded in increasing their economic freedom, especially, for example, Sweden, where, of course, democratic socialism was invented in the 1930s. The Swedes have been steadily reining in, reducing government, have been making it Sweden a friendlier place for private companies to do business, and they have been rewarded for those policy changes by improvements, steady improvements, really, in our index. The same with the former Baltic states of the Soviet Union, and of course you can see the countries in the West, from the United Kingdom on down, Italy, France, Spain, are still coping with debt and too much spending, too many promises, and unfortunately the United States has been following this kind of Keynesian example in the last 5 years. Overall in the world, too many people are still living in countries without enough economic freedom, countries that have a score below 60, which is the minimum to be considered moderately free. And so especially the big bubbles there, India and China, many other countries are still too far behind, and we hope that they catch up. They're in the, most of them are in the mostly unfree category. In Spain, another decline this year, and can talk about some of the reasons. One of the things to keep in mind is that the data we use there's a lag in the data. So our data year starts July 1st and ends on June 30th. So the cost of the bailout of the banks after the housing crisis in Spain is actually appearing now this year in our index, since the data is from July 1st, 2012 to June 30, 2013. And so the government spending score dropped considerably, which I think Jaime will probably also talk about. Other issues, and we use the World Bank Doing Business survey for our business freedom score, and that also dropped. There are still issues with business freedom, getting licenses, labor freedom, the issues with the minimum wage, and we think that minimum wages actually end up creating more unemployment and fewer jobs, and especially with young people who don't have a lot of experience. Those people need to start at lower wages and not have them dictated by the government. So those are some of the areas that we'll probably be talking about tonight more. Spain versus European Union, and then other regions and countries in the European Union. You can see countries like Bosnia have gone up. Of course, they started at a very small base, but the UK has dropped down, and kind of in parallel with the United States. But Germany has increased, as has Sweden, as I mentioned. Over the 20 years, though, Spain has made significant progress in all areas, almost all areas of our index, and so that is something to be proud of and something to build on, I think, going forward. And issues like fiscal the fiscal liberty, the taxation levels are still too high, and that's something I know that is much discussed right now with Prime Minister Rajoy having proposed a reform. I think that's very good. If taxes are so high and so complicated that many people aren't paying them, and you have this shadow economy, the economía sumergida, I guess, that hurts the whole country and benefits no one. So, and clearly you can see Spain's rank very low on Libertad fiscal, and so that's we applaud efforts to reform the taxation system in Spain. So that's the PowerPoint presentation, and I look forward to having a discussion with you. And my friend Jaime Garcia Lagas, it's an honor to be with you again tonight. Thanks again for listening and for having me here.